Howdy and welcome to episode 7 of the 240SX 2JZ swap. In this episode, all we're doing is getting this car ready to have the engine and transmission pulled. There's a little bit more work that we have to do that we didn't get done in the last episode, but that's what we're doing today. So let's get started.
Alright, for any motor swap that you're going to be doing in this car, if you don't get a brake booster delete kit, this line will have to be retained on whatever engine you're swapping into this car. This line is a vacuum line that comes from the brake booster and connects to the intake manifold on your KA, your 2JZ, your SR20, whatever the engine may be. But anyway, we have to retain this, so we can't just snip it. We're going to go disconnect it from the intake side, and we're just going to put it off to the side and mark it so we know what it is and where to connect it on the 2JZ. Alrighty, so this is that vacuum line right here. It connects down to this little 90-degree elbow at the intake manifold. We're going to undo this clamp right here, and then we're going to pull it off of that hose, and we're just going to put it off to the side. I didn't notice this before, but there is a check valve right here for that same vacuum line. You can just disconnect it on the one side, which connects to the brake booster, which would be this one, and then just get rid of this line. But you will need, at some point, you'll need a check valve for this line so that when you come out of boost, you'll still have brakes and brake pressure, because if you don't keep this valve when you're coming out of boost on your engine, if you have a turbocharger and you get right on the brakes, you won't have brakes for like a split second. So that is something that you should try to keep. Alright, so another crucial part of this whole engine removal process that we have to take care of is the removal of the wiring harness, or at least disconnecting it from the engine. So that's what I'm going to go and do. I'm just going to start disconnecting things from the engine. Anywhere I see a plug or a mount or a bracket, I'm taking it off. So another crucial part of taking the engine and transmission out of the car is to get the shifter disconnected from the transmission. I'm here in the car. I've already taken off the trim piece that covers the shifter, and I've also undone the 4 bolts that go around the shift boot here. So you're going to lift the shift boot out, and then under that there should be some C-clips which hold the shifter to the transmission. You disconnect those, and then the shifter should just pull right out. So that is what I'm going to do now. So you can see here that the C-clip is gone. I took a flathead screwdriver and went in on that little indentation on the side and just picked at it for about a minute, and it came out. And now that the C-clips are gone, this whole system should really just lift out. Now I have to put down the light here, but you'll be able to see, hopefully, if I take the shifter assembly, it just pops, seriously, right out. And one of the last things we need to do before we loosen the motor mount and the transmission mount and pull out the engine and transmission is to loosen and get rid of the line that connects to the slave cylinder, which would be the clutch line, and any and all electrical connections that connect to the transmission. So I believe there's like a reverse lights connection and maybe a speed sensor connection and some other stuff, but you can see there's lines that run to like the middle part of the transmission and some connections, so I'm going to undo those. I'm going to undo this line, and then we can undo the motor and transmission mounts. Alright, so we took off the transmission mount and we undid the motor mount bolts, or nuts I should say, and we are ready to pull the motor and transmission. So nothing should be connected to the engine or the transmission right now, so I'm hoping it comes out pretty smoothly. So yeah, let's see what happens. Alright, so as you can see, we got the engine out. It went out actually way smoother than we thought it would. It took about 10 minutes and it was out. But there's a lot of stuff we have to do in here before we can put the new engine in. One of them is we need to take off the AC lines. This has the rear wheel high cast steering system. So there's extra power steering lines that run on this subframe all the way back, which I'll have to figure out how we are going to plug up and whatnot. There are a few lines that I have to disconnect. This ABS system, that's an ABS unit right there. I got a delete kit for that, so we need to install those lines. We're installing new fuel lines, which are braided from Chase Bays, so that'll get rid of this whole, all this garbage right here. And there's a few other things we need to clean up. New sway bar. You need to put in a new sway bar, a Cclip sway bar actually, to allow the JZ to fit in this. And we need to take off the motor mounts because down here I took off the bolts that the engine actually sat on, but most people go in from under the car and undo the bolts that hold the motor mounts in. I didn't do that because it was very difficult to get under the car and I couldn't get them loose, so I did it from the top instead. So I'm sure that'll be fun to try to get those off. But in the meantime, that is it for this episode. I'm really happy you stuck around to the end, and we'll catch you in the next one.